Before you say, I do hear this, he was thinking about getting married, not because he believed in fairy tales, not because he needed a ring, but because the woman he loved wanted it. And that's where the questions began. Not about love, but about the contract, about the weight of forever, about whether the system built to protect love might suffocate it. Because no one tells you what marriage demands, not just legally, but emotionally, spiritually, psychologically. They tell you it's about commitment, but they don't tell you how often you'll question it. They tell you it's about building a life together, but they don't tell you how much of yourself you might lose along the way if you're not careful. And the truth? Most men don't talk about this, not because they don't feel it, but because they've been taught that questioning marriage makes you immature, afraid, weak. But what if asking hard questions is the wise thing to do? What if it's the only way to enter marriage without blindly walking into a lifelong trap? This isn't a warning against love. It's a deeper look at the one institution that affects your future, your freedom, your finances, and your sense of self. So before you say, I do, pause. Because what follows might just change how you define commitment forever. The truth about marriage no one tells you. You're told marriage is a milestone, a rite of passage, a natural next step. But what if marriage for many men feels more like a question mark than an exclamation point? What if beneath the smiles, the suits, the staged photos, there's a quiet pressure to conform to something you're not even sure you believe in? Because here's the truth, no one says out loud, marriage isn't just about love. It's about paperwork, lawyers, taxes, inheritance, property rights, state contracts, and yes, societal expectations. And while love is flexible, the system is placed inside, isn't. You can fall in love in a heartbeat, but getting out of a marriage, even a broken one, can take months, maybe years. Lawyers, courts, documents, debt, guilt. Men don't talk about this at the bar. You don't hear it in the wedding vows. But it's there, lurking beneath every suit-fitted promise. And sometimes, the pressure doesn't come from culture. It comes from love itself. From the woman beside you who wants to be a wife, who dreams of the ceremony, the title, the stability. And if you love her deeply, it feels cruel to question it. But still, something inside you whispers, why are we doing this? Is it for love, or for the legal protection of it? Is it for lifelong partnership, or a $50,000 party? Is it for the bond, or the box society expects you to check? These aren't cynical questions, they're honest ones. And if you're a man who's ever felt torn between wanting to honor your partner and wanting to preserve your freedom, you're not broken. You're not selfish. You're simply awake. Because true commitment shouldn't begin with blind obedience. It should begin with clarity. And clarity starts with asking the hard questions, the ones most people avoid, until it's too late. Marriage isn't broken. The system is. The idea of marriage isn't broken. It's beautiful. Two people choosing each other not out of need, but out of want. Not for a moment, but for a lifetime. But the system built around it? That's where things start to rot. Because the modern marriage contract is not a sacred vow. It's a legal agreement, one that often protects everything except love. You want out of a business partnership? You dissolve the company. You want out of a marriage? You dissolve yourself, your assets, your time, your peace. Sometimes, even your relationship with your children. And the irony? It's easier to get married than to get a driver's license in some places. But to get divorced? You might need lawyers, therapy, property division, custody battles, and months, sometimes years of your life. Is that what love is supposed to cost? Most men don't walk away from marriage because they hate love. They walk away because the price of leaving, even when things go bad, is so devastating, they'd rather never enter at all. The system doesn't reward maturity. It punishes reflection. A man who pauses, questions, and thinks deeply before signing a lifelong contract is seen as cold, afraid, non-committal. But a man who jumps in blindly because it's what you're supposed to do, he's celebrated. Until, of course, it falls apart. Then he's judged, blamed, shamed for not trying harder. This isn't bitterness, it's awareness. Because what many men are realizing, especially in their 30-second, 40-second, and 50-second, is that love shouldn't come with a legal gun to the head. It should come with trust, mutual responsibility, Clarity about roles, values, purpose, not just emotion. And the tragedy is this: the system that was designed to protect families now often destroys them. When men hesitate to commit, it's not because they don't love deeply. It's because they've seen what happens when that love is put on trial. So no, marriage isn't broken, but the way we've structured it, the expectations, the consequences, the legalities, that's what needs to change. Because real commitment doesn't need to be forced. It needs to be understood. Why men today are afraid of commitment. They say men fear commitment, but that's not the full truth. Men fear losing themselves inside it, not because they don't want love, not because they don't want a partnership, but for too long, commitment has meant one thing: sacrifice without support. Ask a divorced man why he hesitates to commit again. He won't talk about the wedding. He'll talk about the silence, the emotional distance, the walking on eggshells feeling, the way love turned into performance, the way being a good man started to feel like being a quiet man, a man who gave and gave until nothing was left. That's the part nobody tells you, that for some men, marriage becomes a slow erasure of their voice, of their preferences, of their freedom to simply be. So when they hesitate now, when they stall, when they pull back, it's not fear of commitment. It's fear of being committed into a system where their needs don't matter. And here's the thing: men are more emotionally aware than they've ever been. They read, they reflect, they go to therapy, they work on themselves. They've learned that masculinity isn't about dominance, it's about direction. That strength isn't about silence, it's about clarity. That love isn't about sacrifice alone, it's about reciprocity. But the dating world hasn't always caught up. Many men feel like they're entering a game where the rules are unclear. But the blame is certain. Say too much, you're too emotional. Say too little, you're disconnected. Lead confidently, you're controlling. Play it safe, you're not masculine enough. So what do? They withdraw, not out of apathy, but out of confusion, out of exhaustion, out of a deep longing for something that feels real, not performative. They're not running from love. They're running from expectation, from a version of marriage where they're required to show up as a provider, protector, and leader, but aren't allowed to feel like a man anymore. And maybe that's why so many good men today are single. Not because they gave up on love, but because they're waiting for a kind of love that lets them keep their soul intact. If marriage is still worth it, here's why. After all the fear, all the confusion, all the harsh truths, you might wonder, is marriage even worth it anymore? And the honest answer? Yes, but only if it's built the right way. Because when marriage works, really works, it does something extraordinary. It anchors you, not in obligation, not in routine, but in intention. It gives your life a rhythm. It narrows your focus. It asks you to grow not just for yourself, but for someone else. And for many men, that's where real power begins. A strong marriage doesn't take from a man. It sharpens him. It brings stability to his chaos, warmth to his solitude, accountability to his purpose. When a man is with the right woman, someone who respects him, challenges him, believes in him, he becomes more than he was alone. Not because she completes him, but because she reflects him. She holds up a mirror. She reminds him of who he said he wanted to be. She doesn't let him shrink. She calls him forward with love, not pressure. And in return, he gives, fully, without fear, without games, because he no longer sees love as a risk. He sees it as a foundation. Marriage also creates something our culture often forgets: legacy. When two people build together over time, through storms, through change, they don't just create memories. They create momentum, roots, direction, and yes, healing. Because real intimacy isn't found in newness. It's found in staying, in fighting through the dull seasons, in holding on through the hard ones, in waking up next to the same person not because you have to, but because you still want to. And perhaps that's what makes marriage sacred. Not the ring, not the law, not the ceremony, but the decision to keep choosing someone. After the romance fades, after the masks fall off, after life tests you both, that kind of love, it doesn't weaken you, it refines you. And that is what makes it worth it. How to choose the right person. It's not about values. We've all heard it. Make sure your values align. Sounds wise. Sounds practical. But here's the problem. Values change. The man you are at 30 is not the man you'll be at 50. Her goals will shift. Your priorities will evolve. Life will force you both to grow or shrink. So if you anchor your love to fixed values, what happens when they evolve? What happens when she stops caring about career and starts caring about family? Or when you no longer chase status and start craving peace? You don't need a partner who matches every value. You need a partner who can move with you without losing themselves. Someone who's not just interested in your ideas but in your evolution. Someone who doesn't just love your principles but your process. So what should you look for? 1. Emotional health. Can she hold space for conflict without running or attacking? Does she take responsibility for her triggers? Can you talk to her without filtering your truth? Because beauty fades, but emotional maturity? That builds trust, the kind that outlasts lust. 2. Resilience. Life will hit. Finances, family, failure. Does she shut down or show up? Does she disappear or double down? The right woman doesn't avoid hard things. She builds through them. 3. Curiosity. Is she curious about herself? About you? About the world? Because curiosity means she's open to learning, to changing, staying flexible when life doesn't go as planned. These things aren't flashy. They don't show up in dating profiles. But they're what make love sustainable, not just exciting. And here's the kicker. You can only spot these things in someone else. If you've cultivated them in yourself, don't just look for a woman who checks your boxes. Look for a woman who can build a life with you, even as the blueprint changes. Because in the end, the right partner isn't someone who shares your exact map. It's someone who can walk beside you when the road disappears, when the compass spins, when the destination no longer looks like what you imagined, and still chooses you. Should you get married? Only you can answer that. There's no one-size-fits-all answer. No formula. No perfect checklist. Marriage is not the prize. It's not the destination. It's a container, one that can either hold love or crush it. And the truth? You can live a meaningful, powerful, deeply fulfilled life, with or without a ring. What matters more than marriage is readiness. Not hers, yours. Are you building a life you're proud of? Do you know your emotional blind spots? Can you stand in your truth with or without a partner by your side? Because no relationship can heal the parts of you that you're unwilling to face. So before you say, I do, ask a deeper question. Do I truly know who I am? Because when you do, love becomes a choice, not a rescue, a journey, not a destination. And only then, marriage becomes what it was meant to be. Not a contract, but a commitment. Not a cage, but a container for your growth. And not a label, but a legacy, one that begins with you.